You're being controlled right now. Every time you hesitate before speaking, every time you craft your words to avoid offense, every time you suppress your true position to maintain someone's approval, you're being dominated. The people who control you understand what you don't. Your fear of rejection is their most powerful weapon. While you're afraid of being excluded, they're using that fear to extract compliance, labor, and submission. This is not psychology. This is power mechanics. And you're on the losing side. Law 1. Approval seeking is permanent submission. Machiavelli observed, "He who wishes to deceive will always find someone who allows himself to be deceived." Your need for validation marks you as that someone. Every action you take seeking approval is a confession of weakness. You're announcing to everyone watching that you can be controlled through the simple mechanism of withheld acceptance. This is not a character flaw to overcome. This is a power deficit that makes you exploitable. The dynamic is mechanical. The person who needs approval has already surrendered. They've revealed their vulnerability and invited pressure. Those who recognize this will use it without hesitation or guilt because power flows naturally toward those who understand leverage. Watch your own behavior objectively. How many times have you modified your position because someone showed disapproval? How many times have you performed tasks not because they served your interests but because they secured someone's validation? Each instance represents a moment where another person's preferences controlled your actions. When your decisions depend on others' approval, your outcomes depend on their whims. You've made yourself a function of their mood. If they're pleased, you succeed. If they're displeased, you fail. This is not autonomy. This is remote control with extra steps. Machiavelli wrote, "He who builds his power on the people builds on mud." Approval is unstable. What earns validation today invites contempt tomorrow. The person who needs to be liked will endlessly adjust their behavior chasing a standard that shifts with every audience. Those who dominate you don't struggle with your approval seeking. They leverage it. They've learned that showing disapproval redirects your energy. That threatening exclusion secures compliance. That keeping you uncertain about their judgment keeps you performing. This exploitation is often unconscious. People instinctively respond to power imbalances. When they sense your need for approval, they naturally use it to extract what they want. The manipulation requires no malice because your weakness is structural. Every relationship where you need their approval more than they need yours is a relationship where you hold less power. Professional relationships where you crave recognition. Personal relationships where you require affection. Social relationships where you fear exclusion. The asymmetry of need determines the distribution of control. The mathematics are simple. Powerful people provide value that others require. Weak people perform behaviors that others approve. Powerful people can exit relationships and maintain position. Weak people know that departure means losing the validation they've built their identity around. Stop seeking approval. Build capability that creates dependence. The difference is that skills, resources, and results remain yours regardless of anyone's judgment. Approval can be withdrawn at whim. Capability cannot. Law 2. Trust creates vulnerability, not connection. Machiavelli stated, "Men are so simple and yield so readily to the desires of the moment that he who wishes to deceive will always find someone willing to be deceived." Complete trust is complete exposure. Every piece of information you share becomes potential ammunition. Every weakness you reveal becomes a target. Every dependency you create becomes a point of control someone else can manipulate. This is not cynicism. This is recognition that human behavior follows incentives. When circumstances change incentives, behavior changes. The person who is trustworthy in low-stakes situations becomes unreliable when stakes increase and their interests diverge from yours. Your vulnerability when you trust completely manifests in predictable ways. You ignore warning signs when their behavior shifts. You fail to implement protective measures. You're psychologically devastated when betrayal occurs, which impairs your response capacity. Those who understand power calibrate trust based on stakes, incentives, and demonstrated reliability. They trust someone with minor matters while maintaining vigilance in major ones. They verify rather than assume. They implement structural safeguards that don't depend on others' good intentions. The powerful recognize that people act in perceived self-interest. Sometimes that interest aligns with honoring trust. Sometimes it doesn't. The circumstances that determine which prevails are often beyond your control, which is why depending entirely on trust is depending on factors you cannot manage. Strategic trust means share information only when sharing serves your interests. Maintain documentation of agreements regardless of relationship quality. Create accountability mechanisms that function whether others remain trustworthy or not. Assume best intentions but prepare for worst behavior. This approach doesn't prevent relationships. It prevents exploitation. When both parties know that reasonable safeguards exist, it actually removes temptation by making betrayal costly and detectable. The person who trusts completely signals naivety. They announce that they haven't accounted for the most basic reality of human nature. Self-interest intensifies under pressure. Those who recognize this will test boundaries and, finding none, will gradually extract more than they provide. Machiavelli observed that rulers who depended on others' loyalty without structural safeguards inevitably faced betrayal. The ones who survived implemented systems where betrayal was costly regardless of personal relationships. Your trust should be proportional to documented reliability over time, alignment of interests in the specific situation, consequences if trust is violated, and your ability to absorb potential betrayal. When any of these factors are unfavorable, trust less. Never trust someone more than they trust themselves. People with weak impulse control or conflicted loyalties betray without planning to. Your trust should account for their demonstrated self-discipline, not your hope about their character. Law 3. Visible effort signals weakness, not virtue. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." When you display struggle, you reveal limited capability. When you showcase effort, you prove the task challenged you. Neither generates respect. Both invite others to test whether your limits are as obvious as your difficulty suggests. The powerful work intensely but manage perception so that results appear effortless. This is not deception. This is recognition that people attribute success to either effort or ability, and ability commands more authority. Consider two people delivering identical results. One constantly references their hard work, long hours, and obstacles overcome. The other presents outcomes calmly without emphasizing difficulty. The second person is perceived as more capable because their success appears to come from competence rather than mere persistence. This perception gap creates real differences in power. The person who appears naturally capable receives more opportunities, commands higher compensation, and faces less scrutiny. The person who visibly struggles is valued for work ethic, but not trusted with complex challenges. Your visible effort also provides information about your limits. When others see where you struggle, they understand where to apply pressure. Your displayed weaknesses become their leverage points. Strategic presentation means work hard privately while presenting results confidently. Solve problems thoroughly but present solutions concisely. Experience internal difficulty but maintain external composure. Build skills until difficult tasks genuinely become easier. This doesn't mean never showing vulnerability. Strategic revelation of specific challenges can build connection. The key is that such moments are deliberate exceptions, not constant mode of operation. Those who understand power showcase outcomes, not process. They let results speak to capability rather than explaining every obstacle. They maintain composure under pressure so others cannot read their stress as weakness. The person who constantly displays effort signals, "This is at the edge of my capability." The person who presents results calmly signals, "This is well within my range." These signals determine how others allocate challenges and opportunities. Manage your visible struggle. Not because struggle is shameful, but because displaying it reduces others' assessment of your capacity. Power accumulates to those perceived as capable, not those known to work hard. Law 4. Strategic cruelty prevents greater harm. Machiavelli observed, "Cruelties are well committed when done all at once out of necessity to secure oneself, and then not persisted in. Decisive harshness causes less total suffering than prolonged softness. When difficult action is necessary, incomplete action merely extends the pain while broadcasting your hesitation to everyone watching. The leader who slowly fires someone through hints and warnings creates more suffering than the leader who terminates quickly and clearly. The first approach prolongs uncertainty and prevents the person from moving forward. The second, while harsh, allows immediate adaptation. This principle extends beyond employment. When you must end partnerships, establish boundaries, or eliminate threats to your position, half measures create more problems. Clean breaks allow all parties to adjust and proceed. Gradual dissolution maintains open wounds. Your hesitation to act decisively signals weakness to observers. They learn you lack strength for difficult decisions, which invites them to test your boundaries. Each demonstrated reluctance emboldens more challenges to your authority. Strategic cruelty means, when action is necessary, execute it completely and immediately. Don't soften blows through incremental implementation. Don't prolong difficult situations hoping they'll resolve without your intervention. Don't maintain toxic relationships out of misplaced loyalty. This is not advice to be cruel casually. This is recognition that sometimes the kindest long-term action appears harsh short-term. Decisive surgery heals faster than gradual deterioration. The powerful understand that their authority depends partly on demonstrated willingness to make difficult decisions. Hesitation erodes power. Decisiveness maintains it. Consider organizational changes. A company implementing restructuring in waves over months creates sustained anxiety where nobody feels secure. A company executing all necessary changes at once allows remaining employees to move forward with certainty. The same logic applies personally. When you know a relationship has become toxic, prolonging it through gradual distance creates more pain than honest severance. When you recognize poor fit in partnerships, delayed action wastes everyone's time. Strategic cruelty also establishes boundaries through early firm responses rather than late, desperate ones. When someone first tests your limits, clear response prevents 10 future challenges. Allowing violations to accumulate forces eventual overreaction that appears disproportionate. The key is calibration. Minor issues that don't threaten your position can be ignored. Violations that test your authority require immediate clear response. This prevents escalation by establishing where boundaries actually lie. Those who master this principle cause less total suffering because they act when action is small and clean rather than when it must be large and messy. Prevention through early decisiveness beats correction through late desperation. Law 5. Virtue is your reputation, not your constraint. Machiavelli stated, "It is unnecessary for a prince to have all good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." Your ethical reputation creates permission for action. The person known as principled can take pragmatic measures that would destroy someone with questionable reputation. This makes reputation a strategic asset to be cultivated and leveraged. The error most make is either rigid adherence to principles that prevents effective action, or obvious pragmatism that destroys credibility. Both approaches fail because they don't account for how perception enables power. Strategic operators maintain genuine principles that guide most behavior. This creates authentic reputation. But they recognize that exceptional circumstances occasionally require pragmatic departure from stated standards. The key is handling exceptions privately while maintaining public consistency. Public displays of character, visible fairness in significant decisions, and consistency in stated principles create reputation. Private pragmatism in exceptional situations, quiet compromises that serve larger objectives, and behind-scenes maneuvering rarely affect perception if managed correctly. This is not hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is systematic violation of publicly held standards. Strategic pragmatism is genuine commitment to principles with flexibility for genuine exceptions that serve those same principles' larger purposes. The powerful ask, "What reputation serves my objectives?" Then they cultivate that reputation through visible behavior while maintaining flexibility in private action. The person known for integrity can be trusted with power. The person known for fairness can make difficult decisions without rebellion. Your reputation determines what actions others will accept from you. Someone perceived as fair can implement unpopular but necessary changes. Someone perceived as self-serving faces resistance to everything. This makes reputation strategic infrastructure for future action. Building strategic reputation requires identifying which qualities create the perception you need, demonstrating those qualities consistently in visible situations, maintaining that reputation even when it costs you something, and handling necessary exceptions to those standards privately. The timing matters. When decisions will be highly visible and shape others' impressions of your character, be impeccably principled even at cost. When decisions remain private and won't define perception, you can be more pragmatically flexible. Those who understand this aren't being fake. They're recognizing that their ability to influence others depends partly on those others' trust in their character. That trust is built through visible patterns of behavior that genuinely reflect their usual standards. The distinction from simple deception is that the public behavior is genuine. It represents real commitments followed most of the time. The flexibility is reserved for genuine exceptions where circumstances demand it, not for systematic violation. Law 6. Dependence is power, independence is survival. Machiavelli recognized that power grows when others need you and shrinks when you need others. This asymmetry is not opinion. It is the mechanical reality of leverage. When someone needs you, they accommodate your interests to maintain access to what you provide. When you need someone, you accommodate their interests to maintain access to what they control. The direction of accommodation reveals the direction of power. The strategic operator deliberately cultivates others' dependence while minimizing their own. This doesn't mean isolation. It means building capabilities and resources that make you valuable to others while maintaining options that prevent any single relationship from controlling you. Consider professional dynamics. The employee with unique skills the company depends on has more security and negotiating power than the employee with easily replaced capabilities. The business offering what customers can't find elsewhere has more leverage than the business selling commodities. Building others' dependence requires developing unique value that differentiates you from alternatives, making that value visible to those who might benefit, creating systems where others regularly need what you provide, and maintaining quality so dependency continues. Simultaneously, reduce your own dependencies. Ensure multiple sources for what you need, build capabilities that decrease reliance on others, create backup plans that protect you if key relationships change, and maintain options so no single source controls your outcomes. This asymmetry creates stable power. When you provide value others depend on while depending on no single source yourself, you've structured relationships where your position is inherently stronger. The psychological resistance to this principle comes from narratives about vulnerability creating connection. While emotional openness can deepen intimate relationships, practical dependency typically creates leverage for the needed party and vulnerability for the needing party. Those who dominate recognize this. They position themselves as providers of scarce value while ensuring they can replace anyone who becomes difficult. This isn't exploitation if the value exchange remains fair. It's structural positioning that ensures negotiating power. The practice requires distinguishing types of dependence: practical dependence where someone needs your skills or resources, emotional dependence where someone requires you for psychological well-being, and structural dependence where systems need your role. Each type creates different leverage. Information dependence is particularly powerful. When you become the person who knows critical information others need, you create dependence without necessarily having unique skills. Simply being the holder of important knowledge generates leverage. The timing of cultivating dependence matters. In new relationships, demonstrate value before extracting it. In established relationships, ensure the value exchange remains somewhat asymmetric in your favor without becoming exploitative. When relationships deteriorate, reduce others' dependence on you to minimize obligations. The ethical boundary is clear. Creating dependence through genuine value that others appreciate is strategic positioning. Making others unable to function without you, charging excessive prices for what you provide, or using dependence to control rather than ensure fair exchange is exploitation. Those who master this principle build sustainable influence through being genuinely valuable while maintaining the independence that prevents others from controlling them. This creates power that doesn't depend on others' goodwill or fair treatment. These 6 Machiavellian laws are not suggestions for self-improvement. They are descriptions of how power actually operates, stripped of comforting illusions about fairness, trust, and human nature. Approval-seeking is submission. Every moment you spend managing others' impressions to secure validation is a moment you're being controlled by their preferences. The powerful provide value that others need. The weak perform behaviors that others approve. Trust without verification is exposure. Complete openness creates complete vulnerability. Strategic operators calibrate trust based on stakes and demonstrated reliability while implementing safeguards that protect them whether others remain trustworthy or not. Visible effort signals limited capability. The person who constantly displays struggle appears less competent than the person who presents results calmly. Power accumulates to those perceived as naturally capable, not those known to work hard. Decisive harshness causes less total suffering than prolonged softness. When difficult action is necessary, incomplete execution merely extends pain while broadcasting hesitation. Strategic operators act completely and immediately when action is required. Reputation enables action. The person known as principled can take pragmatic measures that would destroy someone with questionable reputation. Strategic operators maintain genuine principles publicly while handling necessary exceptions privately. Dependence is leverage. When others need you more than you need them, you hold more power. Strategic operators deliberately cultivate others' dependence while minimizing their own through capability development and diversified relationships. These laws function whether you acknowledge them or not. The people who dominate you understand them. They use your approval seeking to extract compliance. They exploit your complete trust when their interests diverge from yours. They perceive your visible struggle as weakness to be tested. They use your hesitation against you. They present virtue while being pragmatic. They make you depend on them while maintaining their own options. Your choice is not whether these dynamics exist. Your choice is whether you understand them or remain vulnerable to those who do. The powerful don't fear rejection because they've built capability that makes them valuable regardless of any single person's approval. They don't trust completely because they understand that circumstances change incentives. They don't display effort because they manage perception strategically. They don't hesitate when decisive action is required. They cultivate reputation while being pragmatic. They create dependence while maintaining independence. This is not advice to become manipulative or cruel. This is recognition that power operates through specific mechanics. Understanding these mechanics allows you to build genuine strength rather than remaining subject to others' strength. Machiavelli wrote about reality, not ideals. He observed that those who understand how power actually functions have tremendous advantages over those who operate on naive assumptions about fairness, loyalty, and human nature. The question is simple. Will you continue operating on comfortable assumptions that leave you controllable? Or will you develop the strategic awareness that makes you untouchable? Those who fear rejection will always be ruled by those who wield it. Those who trust completely will always be vulnerable to those who betray strategically. Those who display struggle will always be dominated by those who present strength. Those who hesitate will always lose to those who act decisively. Those who are rigidly principled will always be outmaneuvered by those who are strategically pragmatic. Those who need others will always serve those who make others need them. This is not encouragement. This is observation. Power flows to those who understand its mechanics. You are either studying power or subject to it. There is no neutral position. The future belongs not to those with the best intentions, but to those who combine capability with strategic understanding of how dominance actually operates in human interactions. If you understand that these laws describe reality rather than aspiration, you understand why some people command while others obey. The mechanics are amoral. How you use them determines their morality. But make no mistake, these mechanics will be used. The only question is whether you'll be the one using them or the one they're being used against. Power doesn't care about your comfort with these truths. It simply flows to those who understand them and away from those who don't. Choose accordingly.